Hello, and today we're representing Generation for Ukraine with our project in the framework of Europe that is conducted by Horizon EU research program. Our project aims to raise awareness about disinformation in the Czech Republic and generally in democratic societies and how it impacts political processes. My name is Yaroslav Dudko, and today we have been joined by His Excellency Ambassador of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, Matthew Field. Could you please introduce yourself a bit to our viewers?
Sure. So I've been the ambassador for the UK here in the Czech Republic for the last 2.5 years. And as an embassy, one of our very top priorities is continued support to Ukraine.
I would like to say that we are most honored to have you with us today. And our first question in this interview would be, could you please tell us something about the key tools Russia and Russian government is using for coordinated information operations entering Czech discourse?
Yeah, so I think what we in the UK and here in the Czech Republic have experienced is a very direct and deliberate attempt by the Russian state to use disinformation and other tools to undermine our democratic processes. So to use the transparency, the openness, the freedoms that we enjoy at home against us, and to do that in order to further support their aggression against Ukraine, to build public narratives, to undermine support, and to weaken the kind of democratic institutions in our country. It's a challenge we both face. A number of other democratic countries face that as well. But I'm pleased that working together, I think we can tackle those threats very well.
I'm sure about it. Can you describe any case where your institution, the British Embassy, had to respond to such operations or fake news?
Yeah, so what we've done, I mean, you start at the UK end of this. So what the UK government approach has been is to use some of the tools, including legal tools. So we've sanctioned a number of individuals and organisations that we know were actively trying to undermine us at home. We've seen some of those efforts in country as well. So the British Embassy might be targeted on social media or in other areas, very deliberate disinformation campaigns that have been sponsored by Russia. So to respond to some of those and to set out very clearly why the UK position is what it is, what we're doing together with the Czech Republic, not only in support of Ukraine, but actually in support of ourselves. It's worth being very clear that we are doing this not only because it's good for Ukraine, but also because it's good for us at home as well. So Russia is an aggressor against all of us, against all of democratic European countries. Together we've had to take actions against those. And I've been pleased also to see here in the Czech Republic some of the steps that this government has taken. So you look at the actions against the Voice of Europe group, which was absolutely a Russian state sponsee, and the action that was taken against it, I think, was a very positive example.
Thank you for your answer. I think every democratic society would benefit from having less disinformation, less misrepresentation of facts in the discourse. From your perspective, and maybe using some British insights, what's missing in the current efforts to protect the public from pro-Russian narratives in Czechia?
So I think it's good to be positive. I think there's a lot that's being done that's working very well. And if you think about the resilience of Czechs and Brits to Russian disinformation, I think there's reasons to be optimistic. So last year in the UK, you had an election campaign, and support for Ukraine wasn't even really up for debate. So there's a broad consensus that it's the right thing to help Ukraine for their security, but for our own security as well. So the UK, I think you can be positive about that. I think you can see that in the Czech Republic as well. I think you see broad societal support and understanding of why it's important to help. And that's something that we should be positive about. At the same time, we can all do a bit more. I think one of the challenges right in front of us right now is the use of artificial intelligence and how that ability to create content, to create fake videos is faster, more easily, more cheaply, is going to increase the challenge that we face. But I'm feeling pretty optimistic at the moment because I think the societal resilience is there and we're all pulling in the same direction.
Maybe a bit of a continuing question. You mentioned that there is not a question where to support Ukraine or not, or to combat Russian influence or not, but I would ask, do you think there is a way to keep the people from being fatigued by the long run of the war and the operations that continue?
I think it's an entirely reasonable question. One thing that occurs to me immediately on that is, and when the topic of fatigue comes up, is that I think it's very hard for us outside of Ukraine to complain of fatigue when it's the Ukrainians themselves who are fighting most directly against Russian aggression. So for us to be fatigued whilst Ukraine continues to fight, I think is a hard position to defend. But we do need to keep on making that argument over and over again as to what's in our interest, what's in our security benefit. To us in the UK, I think to many Czechs as well, it's clear that Russian aggression will not stop with Ukraine. If they get exactly what they want, if they're able to invade a sovereign country, claim territory, to prevent it from defending its democratic institutions, then other countries will be next. And I think Russian aggression is very clear. And for that reason, we need to keep on explaining and justifying to our populations what it is that we're doing and what they can do as well. This is a whole of society approach. That's what we need.
Thank you for your answer. I wanted to mention that the project that we're working with, Europe, aims to bring more inclusion of young people into the democracy. So my next question would be, as a former teacher who connects well with youth, what do you see as key to building their resilience against disinformation? What role can schools and educators play in it?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. I think young people have an absolutely essential role in this. I recently was talking to my group of youth advisors. So I have a group of about a dozen young people from across the Czech Republic, and we talk once a month. One of the recent topics was social media, disinformation. And again, I got a very strong impression of quite how capable many young people in this country are, quite how concerned they are, and quite how active they are in fighting against disinformation. Clearly, part of that is media literacy education. So I think within schools, helping young people to understand the best way to approach these new media tools that we're all enjoying and benefiting from, but also what the risks are. So how to identify where false narratives, how to be aware of the risks that we can get sort of directed into these strange parts of the online world where fake information is presented as fact. To use trusted sources. So now is a great time to be looking at the BBC or other trusted sources. The value of looking at reputable providers of information, I think, is absolutely essential. And then maybe the last part, and we talked about this with the youth advisors as well, was that kind of critical thinking mindset. So ultimately, I think we all need to bring a critical mindset to the information that we're being presented with. So to understand the broader context, to be asking good questions about the motivations of the person who's presenting the information to us. And that is probably our best defense.
Thank you for answering. I think that young people are both the opportunity and the vulnerability of the society. So they easily trust many narratives. And you mentioned the media platforms. So it's basically the topic of my next question. As young people in Europe increasingly inhabit social media and platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and different others, platforms that Russian influence operations have expertly weaponized. In your view, how can public diplomacy authentically engage young people on these platforms?
Yeah, I think it's another huge challenge that we face. The fact is that social media is part of our lives. My job as an ambassador includes being active and present on social media. And sometimes that's a surprise to people. Why would the British ambassador to the Czech Republic be on Instagram, for example? But it is part of the job. Public diplomacy, being a diplomat, is about engaging with people where they are. And many people, especially young people, are online. So it's right that we're present. We still do television, we still do radio, traditional media. But to be present on social media is very, very important as well. What I try to make sure we do is we are on these channels with a purpose. So we're not just there to share cat videos or to retweet content that's sent out from London that's not personalised at all. We're actually there to engage with people, to share information, to explain what we're doing, and to be transparent. And this is the difference, I think, in the way that I and others would use social media, which differentiates it from disinformation and propaganda, is that it's very transparent. I don't pretend to be someone I'm not. It's clear that I represent the UK government, and I'm very open with people about that. Part of my job is to explain the UK government's approach on Ukraine and other topics, and then people have an opportunity to make up their own minds. That's what we try to do with our media work here as an embassy. And I think that's the great opportunity that you have with social media is to engage with broader audiences. And that also gives me the opportunity to hear from people as well. So the social bit of social media, it means that it can be a conversation, not just a one-way projection of information. So it gives me the opportunity to hear from people, and I think that's a good thing.
Thank you. My last question will be a bit philosophical. Before you mentioned that often malign actors use the democratic society as instruments to undermine democracies. So, in your opinion, where's the line between countering disinformation and protecting freedom of speech?
Well, I think it's another very, very important and very live debate. Freedom of speech is very important for us in the UK. We value it, we treasure it, we protect it. But at the same time, it has always come with a responsibility as well. And when that freedom of speech is being abused in order to threaten or to increase harm to others, then there's always been a limit on what's possible. You put it yourself, that we are aware that our opponents, our enemies, are trying to use our very freedoms against us. And for that reason, we want to protect those freedoms, including freedom of speech. We want to make sure that people have the right to disagree. But the right to disagree doesn't mean the right to mislead others or to try to cause harm to others. And that's really where we try to make sure that the line is drawn, so that we're still protecting ourselves from those threats, whilst also protecting those fundamental freedoms as well. And it's not easy. I mean, we should be very honest. This is a challenge for us in open and democratic societies. But one country that we absolutely won't take lessons or lectures from is Russia. When it comes to freedom of speech, that is not an example that we want to follow. And we will continue to defend our freedoms as well as protecting our citizens as well.
Thank you. Mr. Field, we all would like to thank you a lot for contributing your voice to our initiative. And I hope that in the future we will cooperate to help make our societies more transparent and more resilient.
Thank you. Thank you for the initiative.